طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته جزاكم الله خيرا for tuning in and for watching. Bidnillahi ta'ala, we want to try our best to take a few questions if possible tonight, and inshallah we'll try to keep the answers summarized and short and try our best to serve as many people as possible by answering as many questions as possible with our limited abilities. Bidnillah. And Allah surely is the one who knows everything. Fadhan.
WS Birmingham, UK. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khairan. When are you coming back to the UK?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hopefully in November, inshallah. That's the plan. Beginning of November is the plan. Let's see how that works out, inshallah.
Samir,
Musallim.
Maple Disciple, Toronto, Canada. Who is your favorite scholar of Hadith from the narrators of Hadith?
Question is, who is your favorite scholar of Hadith from the narrators of Hadith? It's a hard question for sure. So many different narrators and so many different levels. From the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, and from those who came after the Tabi'een. This is difficult, yani. This is difficult. Al-Muhim, yani. If I had to pick one from among the Salaf al-Salih, ilman wa fiqhan wa diyanatan, riwayatan, etc., and there's so many, I will possibly say Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah. Even though there are issues with Hasan al-Basri's riwayah, من حيث الإرسال ومن حيث التدليس ومن حيث الله أعلم.
Richmond, California. What's the minimal I need to marry a non-Muslim woman? I just want to fulfill my needs.
Question is from Richmond, California. What's the minimal that I need to marry a non-Muslim woman? Allahu Alam, exactly what you mean by minimal with regards to the contract being valid, it being a permissible nikah, or with regards to getting married and the woman and you agreeing upon the conditions of marriage and children, etc. Or you mean finances and material things. Allah knows best, all three are possible. Perhaps the person is talking about the first category, and that is for the valid contract. For the valid contract. Before we even go there, and with regards to the person fulfilling his needs or desires, we don't advise you to marry a non-Muslim woman. Whatever your reason or purpose behind getting married is. Protecting yourself, fulfilling your desires, I don't advise you to do that. And you may think that it's simple and easy, but it may not be that simple and it may not be that easy. And we have to realize something, that when we have the ayat that talking about the women who have been given the scripture, those ayats without a doubt were sent down in an atmosphere, in an environment. And that was an atmosphere and an environment of Islam and the Muslims being strong and dominant. Strong and dominant. I'm not saying that it's haram or totally unlawful to marry a Jewish or Christian woman today. I'm not saying that. Nor am I saying that certain rules change because of the situation. But what I am saying is that those verses were sent down in an atmosphere and a climate, which is very contrast to our atmosphere and climate today, with regards to the strength of Islam and the strength of the Muslims versus its opposite. So that is not my advice. My advice is to find a Muslim sister, a pious Muslim sister. Be patient. Look, where there's a will, there's a way. If you get rejected in one place, you get accepted in another place. If you can't marry a sister here, then it's a reason why. Okay? Oftentimes people get stuck on a race. All right? You get rejected by this race, but there are plenty of women from that race who would marry you. Or you get stuck, you get rejected from an age. You're a younger wife, but there's an older sister that would marry you. Or you get rejected because of a situation. I want a woman who doesn't have children. And she says, no, you don't have enough money, or you're this, or you're that, or you're this. And it's a woman who may have a child or children who's a good wife. So what is most important to you? Getting married, protecting yourself, okay? Or remaining single and looking for the wife that you want to look for. So that's my advice. As far as the specific of the answer, then the nikah, you should be done in a way according to Islam. Witnesses, guardian, so on and so forth. Wallahu alam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Abu Ramba, Hayakullah, Adam East Suburban, New York. What is the ruling on using CBD oils with small amounts of THC?
Question is from, he said, Brooklyn. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu feek. May Allah bless you. Using CBD oil with small levels of THC. I would say, depending on the reason, depending on the levels, and depending on what type of CBD oil you're using, it can be permissible. Like any other type of oil that comes from a fish, or comes from a plant, or comes from other seeds or things like this, in which it's extracted. And it's well known that the oil does not intoxicate, it does not cause drunkenness, it does not cause addiction, etc. All right? So CBD oil, regardless of the level of THC, medicinal marijuana versus recreational marijuana, there are different levels, different strands, and the different usages. Okay? The concept of using medicinal marijuana that is vaporized versus it being smoked. Obviously, medical specialists, they say that the most effective way of extracting the beneficial things and the ingredients and the agents from the actual marijuana is through smoke. It's the most fast and direct way of doing it and better than vaporizing it. But obviously smoking has other issues involved in it. Okay, regardless of the intoxication, such as cigarettes, smoking versus causing cancer. And the list goes on. So the point I'm trying to make is that there's a difference between why you're using it, how you're using it. There's a difference. At the end of the day, CBD oil that's made for digestion or skin or hair or something which is not made as an intoxicant, hopefully it's nothing wrong with that. And Allah knows best.
Initials AB, Brooklyn, New York. Assalamu alaikum. Why do I hear Muslims pronouncing the word Muslim as Muslim with a Z? Is this a dialect? I hear this from auto English speakers.
Type. Question is from where again?
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn. Why do people say Muslim instead of Muslim? Is this a dialect? I hear many people say, Allah knows best. I don't know of a dialect of a Zay and a Sin being interchangeable. Allahu Alam. I've never heard of that in the pure Arabic. Perhaps it's from ignorance. A Muslim. A Muslim. A Muslim. Perhaps it's from ignorance. Allah knows best.
Adam East Brooklyn, New York. What is the ruling on someone using vaping so they can stop smoking cigarettes?
Using vaping so they can stop smoking cigarettes. As we've mentioned before, certain things could be alternatives. But it doesn't mean that that thing is permissible or that it's recommended, or it may be conditionally permissible for a time and a place and a situation. We mentioned this in a freshly grounded interview. Obviously, it ruffled the feathers of many people that didn't understand what we were trying to say. No one is saying smoke weed. And no one is saying drink alcohol. No one is saying that. But we're saying if that is the thing which prevents you from using a heavy, serious drug, then obviously you have to measure out the bad and the good in light of necessity. So therefore, you should try your best to quit smoking cigarettes. Do whatever you can of the permissible, lawful ways. And if there's no other way that you can stop smoking cigarettes except through vaping, then perhaps that's better. But the danger still lies if you becoming addicted to vaping. Wallahu alam.
Initials AB, London, UK. Is Ibn Hazm reliable when it comes to hadith?
Is Ibn Hazm reliable when it comes to hadith? Ibn Hazm, first and foremost, he's a little later on. He's not from the 3rd century. He's not from the golden era. So most hadiths that he narrates are going to be from someone else's chain. And if they're not from someone else's chain, then we have the concept of the different ulu and nuzul, and the badal, and the muwafaqa. Him meeting up with the sheikh of this island. Him meeting up with this person's sheikh, after his sheikh. Okay? So in most cases, it's not going to be a major hadith pertaining to the aqidah, the fiqh, the rulings, the tafsir of the Quran, that is only going to be collected by Ibn Hazm in Hajjat al-Wada' or in Al-Muhalla or any of his other books which are musnada. reported with the chain of narration. So therefore, it's not going to be a big major issue. In general, Ibn Hazm, in general, is an imam. He made some mistakes and some errors, and there's some excuses for him in those mistakes and errors. But in general, Ibn Hazm is an imam, naqid. He was a criticizer of hadith, and he's respected for that. Wallahu alam.
It shows AA, New York, New York. Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling for establishing a caliphate? Is it fard al-ain or fard kifaya?
Say the question again.
It shows AA, New York, New York. Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling for establishing a caliphate? Is it fard ain or fard kifaya?
What is the ruling on establishing an Islamic Caliphate? Fard ayn or fard kifaya? Just look at it in the concept of what is a caliphate and who has the ability to establish it. Look at other rulings in Islam which are obligatory but not upon each and every single Muslim because of the nature of the act. 5 daily prayers versus something else. Hajj, once in your lifetime versus other things which are beyond your reach. You understand? Believing in something being obligatory, that's one problem. That's one issue. It's mandatory, even if I don't have the ability to do it. But every single Muslim has to do every single thing which is a large and grand scale. That's a different story. So there are many, many things in Islam that are fard kifaya in general. And there are instances in which it can become fardul ayn. That's what I believe is similar to this question. That's all I'll say about this question for now. Wallahu alam.
Initials AB, Brooklyn, New York. Barakallahu feekum. What is the significance of the pumpkins on your desk this week?
Questions from Brooklyn. What's the significance of the pumpkins being on your desk this week? The pumpkin. It was on the desk last week. And the significance is I was going to the market one day and I came back from a farm with my children. And in that farm, they had decorative gourds and squash and things like this. It was a pumpkin patch, actually. A huge, gigantic farm full of different colored pumpkins. And I said, oh, this is nice. Pumpkins taste good. Squash tastes good. And I like it. I want to put it on my desk as a, something symbolic for the season that we're in. Fall being one of my favorite seasons of the year. And living the most of it and enjoying it. That's why I put it on the desk. I thought that the corn, the squash, and the pumpkin is nice, and it is symbolic to the season in which we're in. Like many people put flowers on their desk at a banquet or a lecture. Scholars overseas, they have what? A bouquet of roses or flowers on the table. Flowers obviously represent all types of polytheistic acts and superstition if you read the history of flowers. So not to go off the topic, this pertains to the topic, okay? Many people say you're going off the topic. No, this is a part of it. I read once about the act of giving flowers to a woman that you love or care about. And I read an article from a neo-feminist. This was years ago, many years ago. I was in Medina. I was in Jeddah at the time, but I was studying in Medina. And this neo-feminist lady said that it is utmost disrespect and a slap in the face to give a woman a rose or roses as a romantic gift. And that's because roses, and the nature of roses and flowers represents chauvinism. And it represents the concept of a woman being the material of sex to a man. And that is the pollination of the flower. And how the bees go and they pollinate the flowers, so on and so forth. And the nature of the rose and the flower and what it looks like. And that being translated to a woman and her body and her being a toy of a man's sexual desires. Does everyone say this? No. I'm trying to make a point here. Of how everything that you put on your desk could be what? Representative of something else. So a pumpkin could represent Michael Myers and Halloween. Or it could represent that it's fall time and Allah Azza wa Jalla created the fall. He created the season. He created the fruits and the vegetables in the fall. People eat these things. And that's a part of heritage and lineage of the United States. The pumpkin and the corn and the squash and the other pieces of fruits or vegetables that are specific to the fall. Everyone understand this? So the answer to why I have it on the desk, that's why. Because I like the way it looks. And it doesn't represent any type of holiday, obviously. It's not a jack-o'-lantern. Everyone understand this? Secondly is, we have to be mindful, not saying this is the person asking this question, but many people say this. You have to be careful of saying what a thing is and being judgmental and coming to the table with a full cup, because we can watch countless videos in which there are scholars overseas who have flowers on their table. And those flowers represent all types of superstitions, all types of sexual acts and practices, and many other haram and disliked things in the kitab and the sunnah. So if we apply it here, then we have to what? apply there. That's the point. Huh? And Allah surely knows best.
Nuruddin al-Khadawi, Birmingham, UK. May Allah rectify all of our affairs. Could you mention principles of getting physical with your younger siblings and demonstration of Rad as-Salam and Salah?
طيب. Principles of getting physical with your younger siblings. May Allah rectify our affairs. I don't know about those principles. If it was my little brother, I wouldn't get physical with him. I would try my best to teach him, give him advice, lead by good example. And as one of my mashaykh told me a couple years back in Medina, we were explaining to him some of the fitna in America and the UK and so on and so forth. So the sheikh, he said to me, he said, Sheikh Muhammad, he says, I don't think you should say anything. And I don't think you should do anything. He said that Allah is repaying you for when you were with them. When you were with them in this group, in this gang, and you were running around, you were gung-ho, now you've left them, you've made tawbah from that, you've left that, Allah's guided you to that which is correct, now you're getting purged and purified of that. So don't get upset and don't become disgruntled, don't become impulsive when someone talks about you or speaks about you or disrespects you, because you were once what? With them. So the point is that if you have a little brother, whatever the reason why you need to get physical with them or whatever you're thinking about, just be mindful of it may have been a time in which you did it. Maybe you used to smoke. Not saying that this brother smokes or drinks any type of alcoholic beverage. Bi-idhnillah. Right? Some brothers have vodka in the hotel room, Airbnb. We don't want to get into that right now. Everyone understand this? Al-Muhim is that maybe you used to smoke. Maybe you used to have a girlfriend. Maybe you used to be with this extreme group. And now your little brother is following you in that. And you tell him, no, don't do this. And you try to discipline him and he doesn't want to listen to you. So you have to have sabr upon that. You have to have sabr upon that. All right? You shouldn't get physical with any Muslim, little brother, bigger brother, unless it's absolute necessity of defending yourself or stopping them from harming themselves or harming someone else. As far as Radd as-Salam, the ishara in the prayer, how the Prophet used to give the salams, then that which I've learned and studied from my mashaykh, it's like this. Like that. If a person did this, maybe. I haven't seen that demonstrated by my teachers. Or I've seen what? Like that. Yushiru. Wallahu alam.
And it shows AZ London, UK. Is it correct that Imam al-Bukhari narrated the hadith of Aisha in his Sahih on the ayah Qad Sami Allah in Babu Tawheed? If that's correct, what is the reason for this?
Say that one more time.
And it shows AZ London, UK. Is it correct that Imam al-Bukhari narrated the hadith of Aisha in the Sahih on the ayah Qad Sami Allah in Babu Tawheed? If that's correct, what is the reason for this?
Tayyib. Imam al-Bukhari's book regarding Kitab al-Tawheed, that chapter of Kitab al-Tawheed, Imam al-Bukhari is establishing the correct creed of Ahl al-Hadith concerning Allah's names, attributes, and actions. And he's also refuting and debunking and rejecting the false creed, the false stance, the incorrect understanding of Allah's names, attributes, and actions. So with regards to Allah hearing and seeing, with regards to Allah answering dua, with regards to Allah's speech, with regards to the Quran being the speech of Allah, so on and so forth, all of that is collected in that chapter. And that is the purpose behind that. Allah seeing, Allah hearing, and Allah's other beautiful names, perfect attributes, and lofty actions. That's the theme of Kitab al-Tawheed. Wallahu a'lam.
And it shows AB book in New York. What is the ruling of playing football, professional or and otherwise?
Playing football. Playing football is like any other sport. If you do it too much, it's going to be a problem. It prevents you from making prayer on time. It's going to be a problem. It causes your body to be broken up and injured, in which you can't pray properly. It's going to be a problem. Something pertaining to your aura and how you dress and how you're covered, being around other men's aura, etc. It's going to be what? A mushkila. Also the concept of loyalty, al-wala wal-bara. Who you're loyal to, who are your friends. You pray in a huddle. We're all together. That's mushkila. It's mushkila for a Muslim. At the end of the day, Muslims are of different levels today. Different types of Muslims. Some Muslims, alhamdulillah, walaikum salam, are very learned of the sunnah. Some aren't like that. Some Muslims are proud to be Muslim. Some are afraid. All right? So different types and different levels of Muslim or Muslims. Walaikum salam. if the brothers are going to get together on Sunday and play football, and they're not missing salah, they're not gambling, they're not cursing, they're not hurting each other, and their aura is covered up, inshallah, nothing wrong with that. Obviously, the last issue that could pertain to football is the pigskin. Is it permissible to touch and to throw a pigskin? That's the issue in itself with regards to jildul meita. Wallahu alam.
Nodia Khalawi, Birmingham, UK. May Allah guide us and you and make us true followers of the Sunnah. Is it permissible to say Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un for non-Muslims?
Tayyib. Ameen to your dua. May Allah bless you in that. In that. Ameen. That's all we'll say, huh? Idfa' billati hiya ahsanu sayyi'ah. Allah says, huh? We know what they say and what they bring and what the shayateen what? Whisper. Huh? That's what the Quran says. We know this. Nahnu alam. We know this, huh? Al-Muhim. At the end of the day, Allah says, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Those whom when they're afflicted by a musibah, they say, to Allah we belong, and to Allah we shall return. In that ayah, there is no specification of Muslim versus non-Muslim. But it says musibah, a calamity. A calamity can befall you with regards to a non-Muslim. Your mother, who's a non-Muslim, and she dies, it's painful and it hurts you. And your mother belongs to Allah, and she will return to Allah. Wallahu alam. Fadda.
Imran K from Burma. How do you keep studying despite in the midst of problems?
Despite what? Midst problems?
Yeah, in the midst of problems.
In the midst of problems. What city or town from Burma? Please specify. Please mention exactly where you are in Burma, inshallah.
Initials FA, East Flanders, Belgium. Sheikh, what is the ruling on takbir, which is normally after standing from the first tashahhud for the second rak'ah and a three rak'ah with the prayer?
Standing, making takbir.
Takbir, which is normally after standing
After standing on?
from the first tashahhud
From the first tashahhud.
for the second rak'ah and the third and the three rak'ah with the prayer.
What's the ruling on making that takbir? Or where you make that takbir?
What is the ruling on making that?
Al-Muhim, that takbir, all the takbir is in the prayer. Besides the first takbir, takbiratul ihram, takbiratul ihram. Takbiratul ihram, and the other takbirat are called at-takbiratul intiqaliyah. The takbir that you make move from one position to the next. The ulama of Islam, they differ on these things. Are they recommended or are they mandatory? Everyone understand this? Al-Muhim, the Prophet said when he moved from one position to the next, he made takbir. And that is what should be done. Any position in which you move, the takbir should be made. Wallahu a'lam. Perhaps that's the question. If they need further clarification, please explain exactly what they mean.
Initials AK, Reading UK. Assalamu alaikum mufti. I hope you're well. Should I leave my job if it's getting to me?
Questions from Reading, Pennsylvania. Leaving one's job if it's getting to you. It depends on what you mean by getting to you. Affecting your deen is one thing. Versus it's an annoyance. It's bothersome, burdensome. The Muslim has thick skin and the Muslim is patient. The Muslim has thick skin and the Muslim is patient. And the Muslim doesn't run and cower every time a fitna or trouble comes to him or her. That's my advice. Wallahu alam.
Initials AB, Toronto, Ontario. Assalamu alaikum. If I find it very difficult to enjoy the good and forbid the evil with my family, should I just avoid the situation altogether?
Finding it difficult with regards to enjoying the good and forbidding the evil with one's family. Just because something is difficult doesn't mean you're alleviated from doing it. But a difficulty in which you can't bear. A difficulty which causes a greater harm. A difficulty which breaks and fractures and not just bends, but actually breaks and it snaps. Is too much fitna. That is not the same as it being a little uncomfortable. All right? So many people, unfortunately, they have fallen into the concept of I can't enjoy the good and forbid the evil in public because the person is going to get offended. Or it's going to be embarrassing. Or they're going to take it the wrong way. Or it may cause a greater harm, or. And many people, they don't realize that they're confusing and they're mixing two contrast concepts. Giving your brother personal advice is not the same as enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. Your brother personal advice versus enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. Enjoining the good and forbidding the evil is supposed to be for that which is done outwardly and publicly. And it is a clear-cut violation of Allah's laws. A clear-cut violation of the laws of Allah. You enjoin the good and forbid the evil. Whether the person likes it, whether they agree, even if it embarrasses them or not. Ittaqillah, la yajuz, it's haram. You cannot do this. You can't come in a masjid like that. Period. Personal advice is a different story. You pull someone to the side. Assalamu alaikum akhi. You know, I want to let you know that such and such, such and such. And what you do it in the best manner. And your intention is to repair your brother and not tear him down. That's not the same as enjoining the good and forbidding evil for the munkar zahir, which is in public space in front of everyone's sight. There's a difference. Then, of course, if you can enjoin the good and forbid the evil in a way in which it doesn't cause fitna, and it doesn't harm, and it doesn't annoy no one, then alhamdulillah. But the problem is when the enjoining the good and forbidding evil disappears and vanishes. Because, oh, it's not the proper time, it's not the proper place, someone's going to get mad, someone's going to get offended. That means that the truth is now submissive to the falsehood. And the people that are trying to be righteous and pious are afraid and scared of the people of falsehood and what they're going to say and do. And that's a huge problem. And anyone who lives in the United States or lives overseas, he realizes this. In which you're on a train, you're in a plane, you're in a store, you have a beard and a thobe, you're now the weird guy. You're the extreme person. You're the mutawwa, you're the ibadu, or whatever they call them. You're the guy you're out of the proper boundaries. And the fasiq, asi, whatever the fisk may be, drinking, not wearing hijab, whatever it may be, that's the norm. And for you to say something and to advise them and enjoin the good, you're extreme, you're harsh, and you have to care about their feelings and their fusaq. That's a huge problem, and that has happened to the world today, unfortunately. In which the fisk, its feelings takes precedence over the dominance of the truth. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. May Allah help us all.
Clarification on the previous question. Initials FA, East Flanders, Belgium. Sheikh, I meant raising the hands after standing from the tashahhud. Since as far as I'm aware, the witr has no tashahhud. My apologies for being unclear.
The witr has no tashahhud. How is that? Witr can have tashahhud?
Tashahhud in the middle.
Yeah, no, it's different ways of making witr. Witr can be done in 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9 rakat. And some ulama explain that it can be done with a taslim or without a taslim. And if it's done with 2 taslims, then that means that it's what? It's tashahhud. It's more than one tashahhud. I don't understand. In other words, you're standing up after the tashahhud. There are different styles of making witr. It's not just one way of making it. You can make 3 rak'ah, but 2 in 1. Wallahu alam.
Initials AB, Toronto, Ontario. Assalamu alaikum mufti. Does my wife need to have a relationship with my non-practicing relatives such as uncles, aunts, etc.?
Your wife, does she have to have a relationship with non-practicing in-laws, aunts, uncles, etc.? In general, in brief. It doesn't have to be a thing in which that's her buddy and her close friend, but every now and then you visit them. Every now and then you call them or you send them a message or a letter, a gift. If they see them or ask about them, you say, hello. You don't always have to talk about religion to have a good basic relationship with family or an in-law. As long as you stand your ground and as long as they have the necessary respect. And even if they may make fun of you or may not have the necessary respect, as long as it isn't but so bad and you limit your dealings with them. Hey, what's going on? All right, how you doing? And that's it. Class. Rather, there may be some people who aren't that religious who don't reject the religion. They don't mock. They don't make fun of the people. They know that they're sinners, they're wrongdoers, but I want to be like you. Sit with them. It's not haram to sit and have a cup of tea and a coffee cake with your uncle that isn't that religious. Even if he was a kafir, if he's family. But it doesn't mean that you take that person as your close friend. That's a different story. And sit with them while they do evil acts. So everything is based off of a balance. And oftentimes people, they need guidance and they need good advice. And if the religious people remove themselves from every single situation, what's going to happen? And oftentimes the stereotypes grow stronger by you not having no contact with them. He's extreme. He doesn't visit no one. Everything's haram. Everything's bid'ah. Because he has a beard. And he did the same thing to my niece. She covers her face up. She used to be beautiful. She went to school. She had a career. Now she comes out the house dressed with a burqa. That's a stereotype. So sometimes you have to shatter that stereotype. That we're normal people too. We like to eat and drink. We like to sit with friends and family. We like to laugh and smile in a permissible manner. We have personalities too. But the difference between us and you is that we don't believe in drinking and smoking. We don't believe in missing prayers. We don't believe in having girlfriends and boyfriends. We don't believe in this issue and that issue. Wallahu alam.
Initials F8, East Flanders, Belgium. Sheikh, what is the ruling on praying in a rented mosque when you have an owned mosque nearby as well?
Ruling on praying in a rented mosque while you have an owned mosque nearby. The scholars of Islam, they say that there is an etiquette with regards to masjids of size, age and seniority, and musalla versus jamia. There is an etiquette regarding this. Some of the ulama, they explain that if you live in a neighborhood or a village in which is a large masjid, it's unnecessary to pray at the small masjid, especially for Jumu'ah. Especially for Jumu'ah. Okay? Even if you went to the smaller one for the normal Jumu'ah, but Jumu'ah, it's unnecessary to pray there. Or a masjid which is older. This masjid was there first. You should go there. Alright? And also the concept of musalla versus a jami'. A musalla, according to some scholars, is the case of maybe most masjids in the Western world today. Maybe most, not all, and that's the view of some scholars, is that it's not a jami'. It wasn't built from the ground up. It wasn't given and donated waqf. It wasn't endowed. It's a rented building. The owner says, I'm taking it back, get out. Whether you may be renting from a non-Muslim or anything like this, okay? So it's a masjid, but at the same time, it's technically a musalla. Everyone understand this? Okay, so therefore, oldest masjid, biggest masjid, and the most orthodox masjid, that's the masjid that you should prefer prayer in, especially Jumu'ah, and especially the Eid if you're praying inside of a building. All right? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's haram to do the opposite. Also, we have to take into consideration that the big, large mosque may be a masjid of graves, or some crazy bid'ah, some wild type of Sufi, Ash'ari stuff going on in there. And this smaller masjid is a masjid of the pure creed. It's a difference. It's a what? It's a difference. Wallahu alam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh, Toronto, Canada. Initials AA. Should I tell a potential spouse before marriage about past scars on my body from self-harm, cutting myself, or wait until after marriage?
Telling your potential spouse about past scars on your body from you hurting and harming yourself, trying to commit suicide, or anything like this. What do the scars look like? Something that's slight or major, major scars in which you several attempts of suicide or several attempts of whipping yourself or cutting yourself for whatever reason why you did those things. It depends. Some scars are big and major. Some scars are minor and minute. It may be embarrassing. Alhamdulillah, you're over that. That's in the past. And perhaps when you get married, you explain that to your wife. Also, a very important point to be taken into consideration is, what do you think the woman is going to feel about you? To realize that she's marrying someone that is unstable, emotionally or mentally unstable, or was emotionally and mentally unstable. That's a problem. Versus you feeling and thinking that it's not a big issue. So you could fish around a little bit. Ask the sister, have you ever tried to commit suicide? Did you ever cut yourself? Did you ever feel like not living? Did you ever, were you ever really depressed before? And she may say, I never thought of suicide, but I was very, very depressed. And I lost a tremendous amount of weight once. Or I gained a tremendous amount of weight once. Or I had to go to the hospital. And then you realize that obviously she's not going to be that judgmental for you. Versus you asking, she says, no, never. No, I never tried to commit suicide. That's crazy. Or you say, well, would you marry someone that once did this or someone that has this? You can generally gauge it without having to expose yourself, huh? Allahul Musta'an. Let's read the book, please. I'm sorry.
Initials AM,
The
Leicester,
purple book.
UK.
The red one.
Can you
All the way
please...
down. No, up. One more. There you are. Fatwa. Fatwa.
Initials AM. This is initials AM, Leicester, UK. Can you please explain why scholars like Ibn al-Jawzi and as-Suyuti wrote books on the virtues of black people?
And the question's from where?
Leicester, UK.
Leicester, UK. Can you please explain why scholars like Ibn al-Jawzi and as-Suyuti wrote books about the virtues of black people? I would say 2 to 3 reasons. 2 to 3 reasons. Reason number 1, they wrote books on the virtues of black people. Why they wrote books on anything else? It's an issue of life. And there are hadiths talking about that thing. There are hadiths that talk about archery and its virtue. Fadlur Rami, the excellence of archery. There are hadith that talk about uh, uh, chess. Scholars who wrote books on the ruling of playing chess. Everyone understand this? A few hadiths, many hadiths, authentic or not. There are hadiths that talk about the virtue of this companion, or these people, or this tribe. So they wrote anything, and they made specific, yani ajza mufrada, specific small hadith manuals on any specific topic. They wrote hadiths on major sins, or hadith books on major sins, right? They wrote books on the concept of al-fada'il, virtue, targhib, furi hadith nawawi, riyad salihin, wahakadha. So there are hadiths in the sunnah, whether they're authentic or not, that talk about the virtue of dark skin or black people. So therefore, that's one reason why they wrote those books. Reason number two is oftentimes they had students that were black or had dark skin, and they said, Sheikh, could you write a book about the virtues of black people? And that's going to lead us to the third reason, and that is for obvious reason. With so much hatred, dislike, and just a person looking at black and dark skinned people as being repugnant and foul and repulsive, they wanted to counter that. They wanted to counter that extremism or that hatred or that prejudice or colorism or racism or tribalism and show that there are many virtues about people that come from certain countries. Habash, Ethiopians, current day Djibouti, Somalia, Sudan, etc. All right? Let alone different athar about righteous kings, scholars, warriors. Bilal radiallahu anhu was one of the first people to accept Islam. Okay? And that Christian king was the very first person to accept the dawah of Islam. And then obviously later on he became a Muslim. May Allah have mercy upon him and be pleased with him. So the concept of that's a virtue. And there's virtue of Quraysh, virtue of Bani Hashim, virtue of this clan and this tribe, and there are virtues of other people as well. So therefore they wanted to counter what their students were going through. Some scholars say, and Allah knows best, some people say that some of these books were written because it was a student who says everyone is against black people, and black people in this country, in Egypt or Baghdad, are slaves, they're eunuchs, they're this, they're imah, right-hand possessions, concubines of Arab men. The blacks are just, at the bottom of society. So yeah, Sheikh, give us a what? Give us some adrenaline. Pump us up. Tell us how to hold our heads up a little higher than what they are now. And he wrote those books. All right? Very interesting fact about these books. That's all we want to say about that. We don't want to go no further in that. Tfaddal. We already got into enough trouble for what we said, huh? Tfaddal.
Initials H.A. London, UK. Please make dua for your younger sister in Islam. She is quite unwell with cancer.
Allah Mustaan. May Allah help her and cure her and give her the necessary sabr. Ameen.
Initials F.A. East Flanders, Belgium. Sheikh, is Falqibuhunna being done with something like a mislike established in the Kitab
Wadribuhunna, is that done with something like a miswak or something? Is that established in the Kitab and the Sunnah? Tayyib. The verse that talks about and beat them, the literal translation. Wallati, and the women that you are afraid of their nushuz, etc. The verse from Surah An-Nisa. And the last and final step, wadribuhunna, and hit them and beat them, literal translation. Is it meant by a miswak? Is that established in the Kitab and the Sunnah? As far as the Kitab, I don't know of any verse in the Quran that explains that. Rather, I don't know of any type. Yes, clear. Whether you mention the ayah from Surah An-Nisa or the other ayats mentioned in the Quran with regards to a man and his wife and some type of hitting or beating. I don't know of anything that in the Quran it says miswak. An interpretation of one of the Salaf, perhaps. A hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that's mentioned, not necessarily authentic, mumkin. But something in the Quran directly or in the authentic hadith about it being a miswak, something that I don't know of. Interpretation of some of the people of knowledge, that's what's meant by wadribuhunna. It's not with a stick, with a club, but with a miswak, i.e. showing and proving that what's meant by and hit them is not something physical, like a major physical chastisement, but more of an issue of I'm not feeling you right now. I'm extremely displeased with you right now. Everyone understand this? What harm are you going to do if you what? Hit with a miswak. Everyone understand this? So I don't know of anything specific from the Quran or authentic hadith that is a miswak. We have other details of hitting, when, how, etc. But the miswak, la adri.
This shows AA, Connecticut, USA. Mufti, can I text with a sister I'm interested in marrying without a wakil on the phone? I'm trying to get to know her, being that we can't do things of old and jahiliyyah.
خير إن شاء الله. You can email us بإذن الله.
Initials AH, Toronto, Ontario. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi Sheikh. Do you mind explaining what is istikhalaf al-ard in the Quranic context and how the Sahabas understood it after the Prophet ﷺ had passed?
طيب. Question regarding istikhlaf. Perhaps that's what they're talking about. Al-istikhlafu fil ard, succession in the land. What's meant by that and how the companions understood it, etc. There are different levels of succession in the land. One level of succession in the land is a generation. These people died, you came after them. You became the successors of the land. Another interpretation is the concept of leadership and power. This person was president, ruler, king, whatever, and now it's you, or now another people. Another concept of al-istikhlaf al-ard is the upper hand against the dhalim. Even if you're not in charge of the government, but now they can no longer bully you and oppress you. He's placed you in succession and given you the strength. All right? A tamkeen as well. Another Quranic terminology. Allah says, الَّذِينَ إِن مَكَّنَّاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Those whom, when we establish them in the land, they do the following things. All right? And a part of that is the concept of the Khalifa, of a successor versus a predecessor. And that the Muslims must have a leader. There has to be a leader. There's supposed to be a leader. And how the Muslims live today, of scattered states, fragmented countries, Allah al-Musta'an. One of the most harmful things for any team or group or association, of course, any organization is what? Lack of central leadership. So one of the most cardinal sins of leadership and power is everyone being a leader and making their own decision. That's a musibah. And it's supposed to be unity of leadership. One of the first mentioned rules. There's shura. What do you think? How do you feel? But there's only what? One person in this household or in this masjid or in this state that has the final say so. And there's reasons behind that. Allahu Musta'an.
Saif Idris, Richmond, Virginia. Regarding the hadith of Prophet ﷺ about mixing with the people and being patient on their evils and annoyances, what is the limit of the evil you should be patient?
Question regarding mixing with people versus withdrawing yourself from people. What is the level of evil that you should be patient upon to mix with them? It's going to be subjective and relative. There's some people, they may see someone shaving their beard in the barbershop and says, I'm leaving this town. I can't remain in this place. He finds a Muslim drunk. He says, I'm not mixing with these people. Or you go to your grandmother's house, right? And over there is Uncle Rob, who's what? Uncle Leroy, who's a little what? Just a bit. Everyone knows that he's there. He's in another room. You're talking to your grandmother. All right? He says, I'm not coming in here smelling like liquor. He's talking in the background, playing old school music, dancing with his bottle. That's too much mixing for me. And another person may say, I'm not drinking it. I'm not at the table with him. He's all the way there. I'm seeing my grandmother. I'd rather visit my grandmother and be patient upon that harm than withdraw myself from my grandmother. So it's going to be subjective. You performing the munkar versus it being done. You hating the munkar versus you being pleased with it. You enjoining the good, forbidding the evil versus you keeping silent about it. And it depends on the level and the majority, in which there's a majority of fasad and fisk versus it being the minority. Those are things to be taken into consideration. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials HK, Manchester, UK. Chef, how do we understand things that just don't work out? I'm getting good job opportunities, but something always goes wrong.
How do you manage things that just don't work out? I'm getting good job opportunities, but something always happens. Keep trying. You don't know what's meant for you. You can't give up and you can't quit. Allah Azza wa Jalla may test you. He may put something in your path for wisdom. Of course it's for wisdom. We know that, but something that we discover and find out. It becomes clear, that's why that happened. So keep trying. All right? Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't despair. Don't lose hope. All right? Be patient with Allah's decree. And everyone has a trial and a tribulation. And there's no absolute perfection in this life. Everything is going to be what? Flawed at best. At best flawed. And if you look for a job that's 100% perfect, a friend that's 100% perfect, a wife that is 101% perfect, a husband that's 100% perfect, you're going to be very hard pressed finding that. That's my advice to you. Wallahu alam.
Initials AH. Initials HK. Manchester, UK. I'm raised in a family of no male role models, so I have to find answers myself. I don't trust people too much, and there is a danger of shaitan's whispering, but I naturally isolate myself because I didn't have brothers and all my friends have their own lives. Therefore, am I excused for being the lone sheep? Obviously, I communicate at work, but other than that, I talk to my mom, etc., but I am by myself.
Question is regarding being a lone sheep. Being by yourself, not having too many male role models in your family, etc. It depends on what you mean by being a lone sheep. You pray in the masjid, you made hajj, you fast, you encounter a Muslim, say assalamu alaikum, you give the people their basic rights, and you like to stay to yourself. I don't like to talk a lot. I'm a shy person. I'm a stay to myself type of person. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone is different. There are people who are social bugs. There are people who are very talkative, giggly, bubbly, and there are people what they call it, introverted, or everybody's different. As long as you do the basic mandatory things. The basic mandatory. I go to the masjid, I give a general salam, I don't shake everyone's hand, I make salat al-isha, I go home by myself. Me and my wife, me and my husband. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as you do not seclude yourself and exclude yourself from the necessary obligations, if that's your personality. And perhaps that's better for you. Knowing yourself and knowing your limitations, knowing your harm, knowing the people's harm, and avoiding it. Crying over your sins. There are narrations that state that as well. Everyone is different. Some people have no choice but to be in front of the people. Some people have no choice but to talk to people. Some people have no choice but to be by themselves. So it's going to be relative. What's important is don't allow shaitan to put you in a corner. That's very dangerous. Isolation is very dangerous. And also, if you have no Muslim male role models, then there are plenty of good brothers in the world that can be your role model. You can meet a brother at the masjid who's your role model. Someone, a speaker, can be your role model. There are plenty of positive role models. And anyone who comes from a broken family or a broken household or a single parent home, anyone, he realizes is that there's no excuse for you not to have a positive or a thorough role model, a male figure in your life. There's no doubt about that. My father left my mother. I never knew my father, but there was uncle. There was this guy on the block. It was this dude in the barbershop. Whether he was the best or the worst, but it was what? It was somebody there to show you how to be a man and show you the ropes of manhood, even if it was in jail, unfortunately. Even if it's in jail. So what's important is if you seek, you'll find it. Men jadda, wajada. You seek and you'll find it, okay? So if you don't have no one by blood, then there are other positive role models.
Initials AL, Kenya, Nairobi, Africa. Afflicted with waswasah, wastes a lot of water and will do, causing my parents to be annoyed with me. The feeling of passing wind comes and will do a lot. I hear a sound but no feeling. Is it bad?
Question comes from Nairobi, Kenya. A person suffers from Waswasah, using a lot of water, having thoughts, having feelings, etc. Seek Allah's refuge. فَلْيَسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ وَلْيَنْتَهِ. Seek Allah's refuge. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. And then turning away from it. Don't feed into it. Don't allow it to fester. Do not allow it to land and plant in the ground. As soon as it comes, turn away. Think about something else. And avoid precaution. If you have waswasah, there's no such thing as safest thing to do. I'm going to make my prayer up again because it's no. I made the salah. The asr is that it was done correctly. Move forward, and that's it. All right? Seek Allah's refuge. Make the adhan, listen to the adhan. Read the Quran Kareem. Read the adhkar of the Prophet ﷺ, and avoid being by yourself. Avoid being by yourself. Learn something, practice something beneficial of the worldly things that keeps you busy and occupied, and avoid being by yourself and idle. Allahu alam.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh, from Virginia, USA. Can you tell me where you got your jacket from?
Question from what city, please? And we'll happily answer your question, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. What city in Virginia, please?
Initials RA, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Is there a difference between doing good for the sake of Allah and doing good for the sake of good deeds in general?
Question is from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Doing good for the sake of Allah, or doing good for good deeds in general, etc. I don't see any difference. For the sake of Allah and for the sake of doing good deeds. The face of Allah. Paradise. the reward of Allah, the good pleasure of Allah, the forgiveness of Allah. Doing good deeds because you know there's a benefit behind doing the good deeds for your body, your mind, your soul, for your family. It's all from the teachings of the Quran. Wallahu alam.
Mr. MF Staten Island, New York. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Is making a monthly donation to a organization set up for Jariyah, especially Islamic organization or initiative?
A monthly donation to a masjid or center organization, is that sadaqah jariyah? It depends on what the donation is going towards. They're building a school, they're building a well, an orphanage, something like this. That's one thing. Versus just general maintenance. Wallahu alam, depends.
Mr. S.A. in the UK. In Muhammad Abdul Wahhab's book, Darul Siniyah, he appears to make a lot of open takfir in Arabic against many, such as the Ottoman Khalifa at the time. Is this not a bit too extreme?
طيب. Question, fadal. With regards to Ad-Durar As-Siniyah of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he seems to make a lot of open and public takfir upon the Ottoman Caliphate, etc., etc. Is this a bit extreme? I would say that Ad-Durar As-Siniyah is a highly informative and beneficial book. I have it in my library. Walillahi alhamd. Very beneficial book. Point number one. Point number two, like any other book besides the Quran, it is not going to be perfect. Point number three, like any man after Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at best he's flawed and he is not going to be perfect. And that includes all of the scholars. Every scholar will say something which is correct, inshallah, and could say something which is incorrect. That's what we believe, and we know this is a fact. The next point is that a takfir is a part of Islam. Just like salah is a part of Islam. Why is takfir a part of Islam? Because it's mentioned in the kitab, it's mentioned in the sunnah. Just like prayer is mentioned in the kitab and the sunnah. It's just that simple, guys. We overcomplicate things. What is our stance towards takfir? Our stance towards takfir is nothing but qala Allah, qala Rasul. Bas. The Sahaba understood that in the best way. They unanimously agreed upon that. They practiced that. They gave dawah to that. They expounded on that. The Tabi'un, the Salaf, expounded on that. That's what we mean by that statement. Kitab and Sunnah, period. So we believe about takfir, anything else that's mentioned in the what? Kitab and the Sunnah. But looking at all of the verses, and looking at all of the hadiths, and having a harmonious, cohesive understanding of them collectively, as the Sahaba agreed upon, as they practice. And if the Sahaba differed in issues, then we try to take the view which is closest to that pure way. It's just that simple. So takfir is a part of Islam, for or against. There are verses and there are hadiths that prohibit us abusing takfir and calling a believer a kafir unjustly and incorrectly. And there are verses in the Quran that declare people to be kuffar. And there are hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that declare people to be kuffar. And I talk about the reward, the punishment, and the ramification of a person apostatizing. So we cannot extract ourselves from that reality. Everyone understand this. No matter what this imam says, no matter what this leader, this king says, or this secular ruler of this country says and promotes and propagates, and which is to force down the people's throats. Takfir, 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 no takfir, no takfir, no takfir. Obey the ruler, obey the ruler, obey the ruler. Ta'at wali al-amr. La, abadan. It's based off of kitab and sunnah. And the only reason why we say obeying the Muslim ruler is because of what? Kitab and sunnah. Period. So therefore, Ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah ta'ala, this is what I believe about him, and I could be wrong, is that he made takfir upon those whom he felt were kuffar, and upon those whom he felt had apostatized from Islam, whether they were Ottomans or other than Ottomans. That's what I believe that he did. Everybody understands? Whether he was right or wrong, is that it was a rationale by him making takfir, okay? So the sin is not takfir. And many young people, they mess this up. And it's because they've been indoctrinated. Everyone understand this? This is a process. They think that takfir is the sin. And that's wrong. Where does it state that? The takfir of Ahlul Qibla, the takfir of a Muslim who's a fasiq, who's a sinner, The takfir of someone who doesn't make it lawful and halal, that is the sin, that's the sin of takfir. But takfir that's done off of creed, aqidah, and you believe that this person is no longer a Muslim because of this verse, this hadith, this consensus, so and so and so on and so forth, that's not necessarily a what? That's not the problem. And the people, they jumble the two and they mix the two together. So just as the Khawarij are astray, the Murji'ah are also what? Astray. Pay attention now. The Khawarij are astray, and so are the Murji'ah. Those who say that Iman either comes and goes 100%. There is no yataba'ad, yatajazza. There's no sections of Iman. You make a sin, khalas, it leaves 100%. They're astray. And those who say that Iman, you can make any sin you want and it still remains like Abu Bakr and Jibreel, they're also what? Astray. And there are two sides of extremism. All right? So therefore, you cannot understand Iman until you understand kufr, and vice versa. You cannot understand the way of Ahlul Sunnah wal Hadith unless you understand the other what? Ways. And you cannot understand those other ways unless you understand what? This way. So people, they talk about Khawarij, and they haven't even made tahqiq of Ahlul Hadith's madhab concerning Iman. And talk about Murji'ah. You cannot make tahqiq of that until you understand what is Iman and the Ahlul Sunnah. Okay? So therefore, calling a sinful Muslim a kafir is a problem based off of the text. Calling a sinful Muslim a kafir is a problem. Calling someone who says that they're Muslim, but they fall into major shirk, major kufr, and things that this Imam deems to be nawaqidul Islam, and the proof is an establishment upon them, and they've been advised, and they reject it, that's a what? It's a different story, whether he's right in that or wrong. And that's what I think took place in the time of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. And I think that the brothers should be aware of mixing the two recklessly and not being accurate and precise and understanding the speech of the people of knowledge because of propaganda and indoctrination. Propaganda and indoctrination, beware of that. And people will always abuse religion for their own whims. Whether it's a ruler, whether it's an oppressive husband, whether it's a feminist woman, whoever that person of batil is, they're going to use the Quran and Sunnah for what? What they want it for. And they're going to make propaganda out of it. The only thing that you want to hear from this person is obey the Muslim ruler. That's it. That's it. That's the whole Quran is obeying the ruler and not making khuruj, not making takfir, extremism, establishing prayer, zakah, fasting, hajj, and the other obligations and mandatory things. You want what? Abadan. You'll never hear them because it's not a part of their propaganda. So you have to be careful of that, huh? Wallahu alam.
Initials AA. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh, from Springfield, Virginia. Can you tell me where you got your jacket from?
Question from Springfield, Virginia. Can you tell me where you got the jacket from? You can go to any martial arts supermarket or kung fu supply store, in person, online, Amazon, eBay, and just type in kung fu shirt, kung fu jacket, Bruce Lee jacket, Tai Chi shirt, Tai Chi jacket. You'll find it easily. Amazon it now. Google it now. You'll find many results. Different styles, different colors, reversible, different cuts. It's not difficult, inshallah. If you want my specific one, email me and perhaps I'll send you a link, inshallah. Let's see what you got, I mean. Amazon, see what comes up. Only Prime now, huh? Only Prime. Is Prime permissible? Is Prime riba? Is Prime gambling? There's many questions about Amazon Prime. Khalas? Time? We done?
Initials RR, Botswana, Gaborone. Assalamu alaikum. I'm a revert. Will my dreads lead me to hell or interfere in any way with my religious life?
Dreads? Questions from Botswana with regards to dreads. Will they lead you to hell? Or will they interrupt or conflict with any of your religious obligations? I have to see the dreads, to be honest with you. All right, let's see what we got. Lord, but look at that, huh? Simple.
Bruce Lee jacket.
Just like that. That's cream and blue, which I have, actually. I have the cream and the, huh? That's right. For those who know. Huh? And there are other colors as well, other styles as well. And then you got to play around with it. You have the black, you have the white, you have the red, together. You have to play around, huh? It's not a secret, inshallah. Tell you. Dreads, it depends on what you mean by dreads. Locks, certain types of dreads versus dreadlocks. Locks that are long. You got a big, huh? We call them a dread, huh? The Nati dread. Everyone understand this? It depends on what type of dreadlocks you got. And it depends why you're wearing them. My advice to you, as a revert Muslim, a new Muslim coming from Botswana, is that you should try your best to take your time and to learn Islam in the necessary progressive steps. The more you learn of Tawheed, the more you learn of the importance of prayer, and most importantly, the more ilm that you fall in love with, that is going to lead you to everything which is correct and to avoiding everything which is incorrect. And inshallah, a day will come in which you will chop off your dreads, cut off your dreads, based off of what you believe in your heart. What's obligatory and what is best. Everyone understand? It's two different levels now. Something being obligatory versus not being obligatory, but it's preferable to do. And this is the reason why. Let knowledge be the thing that leads you to that. And not what I say, because another imam in Botswana may say something else. And a third imam, and a fourth imam, and a fifth imam. Conviction based off of knowledge. So that's my advice to any revert Muslim, is to try to soak up as much knowledge as you possibly can, to fall in love with knowledge, and to take things what? Slowly. Wallahu alam.
Shows SS Fairfax, Virginia. A child from Zina whose father claims them and demands time consideration with them, i.e. schooling, activities, weekends, but does not financially support them at all. Not because he thinks he doesn't have to, i.e. not my child Islamically. He actually will admit to having to help take care of the child financially. But because he is irresponsible, buys himself sneakers, doesn't save money for the child, does whatever he wants to do, and if there's anything he might give, he gives almost nothing toward the kid. There's always an excuse why he doesn't have it. Although he works consistently, sometimes 2 jobs, can the father be taken to child support court?
Question is regarding child support court. A father does not.
And how does the mother go about getting support for this child? Should the mother continue to be patient? It's already been 10 plus years, and look at it like this is a result of zina and take the hardship.
Type. Child support. Taking the father of the child to court, the child is illegitimate Islamically, etc. The father does not take care of the child, spend on the child, the father is irresponsible, etc., etc., etc. Type. Try our best to summarize the answer and to break it down into points. Point number 1 is we have to avoid being hypocritical. And many of us as men and brothers are very hypocritical. When it comes to child support, we say it's a haram system. It's a kafir system. It's an oppressive system. In which that may be true. It may be true. But how many other haram things, haram systems, kuffar systems, non-Muslim systems, and oppressive systems are you benefiting from yourself? Do you pay taxes? You get tax return? You have a 9-to-5 job. You have citizenship. You have passport. You have social security. You're protected by the police. If someone crashes into your car, what do? Do you drive off or do you what? Do you have insurance? There's so many different other kuffar, taghut, haram systems that you're what? Knee deep in. So with regards to child support, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, don't just bring out the Iman card now when it comes to that. That's the problem. I'm the many brothers, I'm not talking about no specific brother, they have this issue. They benefit from the kuffar system, but not here. That's also the kuffar system. Your job, your kids going to school, this getting free, this being paid for, that's a part of the what? Kuffar system. So don't just pick and choose what you want to pick and choose. And the same applies to women as well. That's my advice to myself and for all of us. We can't just cherry pick when we want to cherry pick. Everyone understand this? Taking pictures is haram, right? But you make Hajj and Umrah every year. You use the same passport, you get pictures for your visa. The Prophet ﷺ, he only mandated Hajj how many times? Once. He himself only made Hajj how many times? Once. But every single year you go to Hajj and Umrah, and then you say it's haram to take a video or to use a photograph. That's cherry picking. You've made Hajj, you've made Umrah upon the ulama that view that they say that Umrah is obligatory. Cut off the passport, destroy it, burn it, khalas. But you keep going and you keep using it. You have a license. So we can't be hypocritical. Debit is okay, but credit is what? And it's all JP Morgan Chase. Your money is in the system of riba, and the list goes on of contradictions that we have. So we have to be mindful of that. Number 2 is, I don't differ and I don't disagree that there are many women who do abuse the system and take their ex-husbands or boyfriends or ex-boyfriends or baby daddies to court unjustly. I don't deny that. It's reality. Out of spite or any other reason. And I also do not reject the reality that there are many brothers who are deadbeat fathers who do not take care of their children. They do not look after their children. They spend no time with their children. They pay nothing to their children, and they become upset when they get a letter in the mail. What is the woman supposed to do? And she said it's been 10 years. According to what she said, Allah was true. What is the person supposed to do? And how many women take you to court if you're actually doing what you were supposed to be doing in a sensible and reasonable way? Listen carefully to my words. Sensible and what? Reasonable. Everyone understand this? Last but not least, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, is that just because the child is from zina, or like we were talking about last night, does that mean that you have no responsibilities for the child? There's no duty whatsoever? The child is lost and left and abandoned, and you yourself made zina? You have to ask these responsible questions, okay? So there is no one answer for this issue. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It depends on the situation. A woman that's oppressive and she takes the man to court unnecessarily, we know the ruling on that. A man who isn't doing his responsibilities and his basic duties, and his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend takes him to court, we know the what? The ruling on that. I have a child from zina. The child knows me. I know the child. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. The child looks just like me. And I say, that's a zani, baby. I have nothing to do with it. You're on your own. You take care of him. You provide for him. Mushkila, yani. Are we living in an Islamic state? Are you stoned to death for making zina? It's a serious question. It's a serious question. Did you get stoned when you made zina? Were you whipped and kicked out of your country for a year? You weren't. Even though you were Muslim, your name was always Shakur Yusuf Shakur. That was your name, right? You were always a Muslim and you made zina. It's haram for you to make zina. Was the Sharia implemented upon you? It was not. But I'm definitely going to implement the Sharia on what? Taking care of that baby. We got to be careful. And I'm not saying that it's absolutely this or what? Absolutely that. Wallahu alam.
Initial RA Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Any advice on how one could develop a love for reading?
Advice for develop a love for reading. Yeah. Go to the library. Sit in the library. Buy books in your house. Put books in your bedroom. Put books next to you. Put books all over the place. Wherever you go, be interactive with books. And just realize the importance of reading. And that reading is a key to so many different things. Reading can fight depression. How many people suffer from depression? Even if it's not an Islamic book, you can read a storybook, a novel, and it takes your mind away from whatever troubles you. Okay, reading could be a means of stimulating the mind, strengthening the mind, makes you a better speaker. Speech is the asl. I guarantee, and Allah knows best, if I go to your job, Alameen, the head honcho, the boss, the HNIC, whatever you call them, is not necessarily the smartest person. Would you agree with that? Not necessarily the most handsome looking person, the richest person, etc. But in most cases, it's the best speaking person. Or the person that knows how and what to say in a situation. You find that fair or not? Or someone who's a senior employee who's been there for a while, he's a representative, he knows what to say. Even if he's not a smart person, but he knows how to sound smart. He's not a tough person, but he knows what? How to sound tough. He knows how to sound smooth. Speech is pivotal of our life. And one of the best and easiest ways of improving your speech, enhancing your speech, and correcting your broken speech is a what? Is a book. Don't we notice some of the best poets were people that were never formally trained? They read the dictionary. Some of the greatest and most influential speakers are people who did what? Read the dictionary in prison. And the other urban poets, whose names I won't mention, who dropped out of college. And they were known for being from the greatest lyricists based off of self-education via books and a dictionary. So a book, speech is pivotal. And you have to have inspiration. You have to have motivation to read a book. And one of those pieces of motivation could be the benefit that it gives you in your what? Your speech. And it lies no doubt. When you talk to someone, you know how many books they read. You can feel it. How they talk and also the confidence of their speech. There lies no doubt. You watch someone have a debate. You know the person that's reading books versus someone that just got it from Google. It's a word of a difference. So the point is that it has to be a motivation for you to want to read books and for you to understand the necessity of reading books. And there are other reasons, what? As well. We just did the 5 minutes of faida about Iqra. Bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. The graphic novelist. Talking about the importance of reading and books in Al-Islam. Watch that faida and perhaps you'll be inspired. Allahu alam.
And it shows UW, London, UK. Assalamu alaikum. Please advise a sister how she should go about seeking marriage, especially if she doesn't have a wali.
A sister who doesn't have a wali and she wants to get married, she should get a wali. Inshallah ta'ala. Find a wali and ask the wali to find someone that's suitable and compatible for you. All right? Obviously, there are other ways and there are other outlets. But the problem is being mentioned in the question. Give me advice on finding because I don't have a wali. So therefore, find a wali. But make sure that the wali, my advice is that the wali is just. And that wali should be someone who's smart, experienced, and fair, and most importantly, objective. My job is to find you a husband that's good for you. I would never marry my daughter to this brother. I wouldn't. But Sister Fulana isn't my daughter. My daughter isn't 45 years old. My daughter isn't a revert to Islam. My daughter doesn't have this issue or this virtue. My daughter doesn't work and have a business. My daughter is in the house. So I would never find her a husband that doesn't have this amount of money. But Sister Fulana is not my what? My daughter. So the wali has to be professional. And he has to be objective. And he has to realize that it is his job to find a suitable spouse for this woman. Not what he thinks and feels. And his list of rules and his playbook and his values. Abadan. Everyone understand these words? Who is a good match for what? For this woman. You have to be objective as a wali. And many walis, they aren't objective. Oftentimes they're oppressive, short-sighted, narrow-minded. Oftentimes they take it personal when they're not supposed to take it personal. And they lose out on a good match for the girl because of some personal issue or personal vision or taste that they have. Be mindful of that. Who you pick as your wali. Wallahu alam. Fadl Shaykh.
When Allah says, خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ, those seven heavens, so that, all, is that referring to dunya, the universe, or what is that all referring to?
Earth?
Yeah, or
7 earths or 7 heavens.
خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ, that all
Clear.
refers to this dunya,
Clear. Clear. With regards to Allah saying that He created heavens and the earth, 7 heavens and the earth, what's meant by al-ard? Al-asl and al-zahir is talking about this earth. Whether you call it a globe, a planet, flat or round, this ard. And earth and the dunya, of course, are going to be connected. It's a connection, but of course there's dunya away from this earth. The ilmul ghaib, alimul ghaib, the heavens, the Isra, Mi'raj, etc. But in general, the ard and the hayatul dunya are going to be what? Connected, because people live and die on this earth. And the concept of earth, water versus land, etc. Like in al-asl, is that talking about this earth that we live on. Allati na'ishuha wa na'isha alayha nahnu. That's the asl of that. What's meant by that? Wallahu a'lam. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasuli nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.